I think a community is defined by the characters it has. I would define Joel Albrecht as probably one of the integral characters of New Ulm.
To try and recall the first time I met Mayor Albrecht would be impossible. Joel was kind of one of those individuals larger than life. When you met him, it was an indelible impression, but it just seemed like you knew the man forever.
We've had great mayors, and there's many, of course, I didn't know, but I don't know that anybody was better suited to be mayor than Joel Albrecht.
He was a super person. He was just there when you ever had a problem.
It was always fun talking with Joel because he certainly would have ideas, and anybody who knows Joel knows he was not afraid to express his ideas.
Joel loved New Ulm. You know, people could say that, but Joel really loved New Ulm. I saw it firsthand, I don't know how many times.
I always appreciated his generous spirit.
I think probably, I would say being mayor to him was probably the best job he ever had.
He was not afraid to take on the big tasks that would be up front and would be noteworthy, but at the same time you could find him at a funeral dinner back in the dishwasher area, washing dishes, scraping pans.
And if you ever watched him in action, he was promoting New Ulm 24 hours a day. I went to a couple of different events. We did a New Ulm Goodwill tour to St. Paul, I don't remember the year. And the first evening, a Saturday night, we went when they still had the Glockenspiel restaurant on West 7th, downtown St. Paul. We get there, and this was when Joel was mayor. We get there, they had a parade in his honor. And a little bit of a ceremony. It was just crazy. And we had a contingent of about, I don't know, 25, 30 of us that took a bus up there. And then afterwards, of course, we had a meal at the Glockenspiel restaurant and kind of took over the restaurant. And I think everybody there knew a little bit about New Ulm by the time we left. The very next day, we did the St. Paul Saints game. And tailgating, of course. St. Paul Saints game on a Sunday afternoon. So we're tailgating. Joel arms us with a brochure, I think, and it had the different festivals and different events that we do in New Ulm. He goes, "Here, you guys go around and tell people about New Ulm." Okay. We hit every one of the tailgating parties in that parking lot before the Saints game with information about New Ulm that Joel had given us. And then it didn't end there. It ended up, we almost became an unofficial New Ulm Day at the Saints game. Next thing you know, we had a couple of Concord singers with us. We were singing the national anthem, our group from New Ulm. And then we did the seventh inning stretch too, take me out to the ball game. So it was just a great time, again, putting New Ulm on the map.
When I became involved in the Herman Victory celebration of 2009, that's where I really, crossed paths with Joel quite a bit. That was a pretty intensive undertaking for our city. I mean, we had this group that met at least starting, I want to say 2.5 years before the actual event in August of 2009. I was serving on that committee with a bunch of other people, and Joel was always there with ideas about little fundraisers here and there. And I'm listening to this, I'm still kind of young and rather new back to the community. I'm going, yeah, that might work. And then out of the clear blue, he goes, what we should do is we should sell the opportunity to fire the cannon. Yeah, we could set it right up there on the Herman Heights Park, and we charge $50, $100 to fire the cannon at this victory celebration. And I'm sitting there thinking, you gotta be kidding. Who's gonna cough up that kind of money? Well, there's a classic example of a mayor who knows his community and the people he serves. We were booked the whole day. It just started like at 8 o'clock in the morning. I think there was a wedding party that was involved in it, that after their wedding, they had all signed up to go up to Herman and fire off the cannon as part of their wedding celebration. That just blew me away that he had that kind of instinct about what his community was like.
When I was thinking about coming down here to talk about Joel, I kept thinking of the word Gemütlichkeit, which is a good old German word meaning sense of well-being is often the way it's translated, sense of well-being, or a warmness or a point in time where things are just well, things are good. And that word and Joel Albrecht are kind of synonymous. Joel liked to have fun. He wasn't afraid to be the center of attention, that's for sure. I'm sure you probably heard that from other people. He was not afraid of the limelight at all. Some might even say, well, there wasn't a camera or a microphone that Joel disliked, and I'd say there's truth to that, and I say that in an admiring way.
I was involved with Sister Cities Commission in New Ulm for many years, longer than I was supposed to be. I was on the commission for 11 years, and that was kind of a fluke how it happened, but anyway, I was. And at the start of my tenure on there, it wasn't a real active Sister Cities Commission. We did things, we hosted some people in the Sister City Exchange, and we had, I think it was an art contest that was tied in, but we didn't meet a lot. And then things turned around, and I remember that I became chairman of the Sister Cities Commission, and we kind of had a big planning meeting and got things, we set up some committees and got it going. And by golly, the next thing that really happened that was dynamic for Sister Cities was that Joel Albrecht became mayor. And Joel really liked Sister Cities Commission. He made sure we were active. We were probably even more active than we needed to be. But I think it was the most fun commission that New Ulm had. Joel took a lot of pride in it. We not only were a sister city with Ulm and Neu-Ulm, Germany, but we also promoted the German language and German heritage in New Ulm, and that was a big part of what we did, from a children's German language camp to recognition awards and a lot of things like that. But Joel made sure that Sister Cities Commission kept moving.
One of the most difficult jobs being mayor of this community is selecting right people on various commissions. And Joel was always involved in that project. The mayor appoints these people to these commissions, and they're the ones that advise our city council. The city council, of course, has to approve all the mayor's appointments. And if I may say so, Joel was very, very sincere about who he selected. It's not an easy job. You've got 13,000 people living here. Some are qualified, some are not. But I'll say this, I was proud to say that Joel was not only a friend, but a good civic leader.
I think back to when he owned the bowling alley, and I'm thoroughly convinced, though it was a means for a living, I think that was Joel's way of getting out 8 days a week to meet the public. Again, I think the man could not have lived on a deserted island with Gilligan's crew. Joel embraced people.
If we go back to the election year of 2008 at the city, nobody filed for Ward 3 City Councilor, and so it became a write-in option. And knock on my door from the mayor, Joel, to try and convince me to run for city council that year. Never been in politics, never really considered politics, not sure if I wanted to be in politics. But after several meetings with Joel, I ended up becoming the write-in candidate for Ward 3, which actually was Joel's former ward when he was a councilor before he became mayor. So I have Joel to thank, maybe to blame a little, for all these years on the city council.
Of course, with his distinctive black bowler and his flower on his lapel, he looked distinctive, but he cared about the town. He was a master promoter. Through my job, I worked at the Chamber of Commerce for 15 years. I would be in charge of different tourism events and meetings and gatherings and stuff. And where appropriate, I would ask Joel to come and do a welcome for people. And he would get up there, and you walked away feeling that, man, this guy loves this town, and he is personally inviting me to come visit it. It just, his enthusiasm and real depth of feeling came through when he did welcomes for different groups. Many times after Joel had done his welcome and our meeting had been conducted, afterwards we'd visit each other and go, "Boy, your mayor sure likes this town, doesn't he?" Yes, he surely does.
Joel did a lot for us. He had some of the great ideas. He was the one suggested that we go from the Polka Hall of Fame idea, let's go to the big picture of the Minnesota Music Hall of Fame, since obviously there was nothing, and so we decided to go that route, which we thought might be a little hard, but as we went every year, more people got on the bandwagon that were from the different entities of music, and we went from there. He was also a very important factor in getting our location here next to the library. Him and Mayor Shoppican both were very important people, but Joel was a great help in getting that to happen.
About 20 years ago, when Joel was on the former council, a group of us were kind of smarting off to him about city politics, and he threw down $5 in front of me and he said, "Now run and make a difference." And I gave him his $5 back. I waited a few years and then until I was ready, and then I ran for office, and Joel's very supportive in that aspect.
Joel and I were part of the user-friendly new Ulm City Council way back in 1992. We both went on together, and prior to that we would hear complaints about the City Council, quashing projects in New Ulm and so forth. And so the two of us, along with Bob Stevens, were the three new city councilors back in 1992. Sat right next to Joel for 4 years and enjoyed his company and, of course, his good humor. And we were able to accomplish several things that the community wanted.
My first memory of Joel was when I was in 8th grade. Myself and a friend, Jim Christensen, decided we were going to take up bowling, not in a league, but just for fun. And so we went down to his bowling alley on Broadway right after school, and I just remember Joel coming over and helping. He ran that business with his brother-in-law, Carl Witt. But you might be cynical and say, oh, he was looking out for future customers, but I didn't never take it that way. He was just a nice guy trying, I think, to share his love of bowling with us. And he went out of his way to help us. We never joined a league or anything like that, but that was my first memory, was of a pretty cool guy who cared about things, cared about people.
Joel, of course, passed away in June. I guarantee when he got to the gate in heaven, first thing he did was gave St. Peter a pin, a New Ulm pin. And everybody knows about New Ulm up in heaven right now.